When the waiting room starts filling, don't look at who comes in. I always thought hospital waiting rooms were the safest places in the world. Bright lights, nurses drifting in and out, the faint hum of machines behind double doors. But the one near my town, St. Crow's Clinic, was different. It was open 24 hours, even though the hospital itself had closed years ago. No one seemed to question it. People just said, if you're sick late at night, you wait there until someone comes for you. Last winter, I found myself there after a bad car accident. My ribs were aching, my head was bleeding, and my phone had died. The waiting room was eerily clean. White plastic chairs. A vending machine humming but empty. A clock on the wall frozen at 3:11 a.m. I thought I was alone, until I noticed the chairs filling one by one. They didn't make noise when they came in. No footsteps, no doors opening. Just new figures appearing in the chairs. They sat in silence, their heads tilted toward the ground. Some were dressed in hospital gowns, some in business suits, one even in a soaked wedding dress. None of them looked alive. Their skin had the dull gray sheen of something preserved too long. I tried not to stare, but curiosity ate at me. And when I glanced at the one nearest me, its head snapped upward. Its face wasn't right. The eyes were hollow sockets, but they moved, like something inside was crawling beneath them. Its mouth hung open far too wide, and I could hear the faintest sound, like breathing from underwater. Then, it stood up. The others followed, one by one, every head turning toward me. Chairs scraping, bodies moving in slow, jerky motions. I bolted for the door, but it wouldn't budge. No handle. No lock. Just a glass pane showing pitch black night beyond. The creatures shuffled closer, their mouths widening until I could hear a wet, sucking noise. I pressed myself against the wall, whispering anything, prayers, curses, begging. And then I heard the voice. Not from them. From somewhere deeper inside the building. Don't look at who comes in. Don't acknowledge them. Wait until the room is full, and the door will open. If you break the silence, you're theirs. I shut my eyes and forced myself into the farthest corner. I counted the chairs filling again, 10, 15, 20. I didn't look. I didn't move. The air grew heavier, the sound of that watery breathing growing louder. And then, click. The door unlocked. I ran without turning back, without looking at the waiting room again. By the time I reached the street, I was gasping, ribs screaming, but alive. Behind me, St. Crow's Clinic looked like a rotting husk, windows broken, walls black with mold. No lights. No waiting room. But sometimes, at night, I dream of it. The chairs, the figures, the sound of lungs filling with liquid. And I wake up with one certainty: if I ever end up back in that waiting room, I won't survive twice. Rules to survive St. Crow's waiting room. 1. Do not look at the people who come in. They're not people anymore. 2. Never speak. The silence keeps them still. Noise wakes them. 3. Wait until every chair is full. Only then will the exit open. 4. Don't try to leave early. The door won't let you, and they will. 5. If one stands, it's already too late. I thought I was the only one who experienced it, but when I searched online, I found others. Old forum posts, some dated decades ago, mentioning the same place. The waiting room. The chairs filling. The breathing. One survivor said he once counted 40 chairs before the door opened. Another said the room never unlocked because he made the mistake of whispering to the one beside him. His post ended mid-sentence. The worst part? St. Crow's isn't the only one. They say every abandoned hospital has a waiting room like this. The chairs are always empty at first. But the moment you sit down, the filling begins. So if you're ever wandering a city late at night and stumble across a clinic with lights still on, don't go in. Don't think it's a miracle of safety in the dark. It's just a place where the dead wait for company. And they've been waiting a very long time. When I turned my head back toward the reflection of the glass case, I noticed the outlines were sharper now. No longer just faint shadows, but skeletal figures draped in cloth that shimmered like wet stone. Their jaws hung low, not in a scream, not in hunger, just open, as if eternally exhaling. What unsettled me most wasn't the way they stared, it was that their eyes, black pits sinking too deep into their faces, seemed to glow faintly from within. And the glow wasn't steady, it pulsed, like a heartbeat. The same rhythm as mine. The silence inside the hall became unbearable, thick as water pressing against my ears. Then came the sound, soft at first, then unmistakable, the scrape of nails, dozens of them, dragging across glass. It wasn't just the display case anymore. Every glass frame, every surface that could reflect was alive with the sound, like they were scratching to get through. I felt the air tighten around my throat. They weren't trapped. They were testing. Testing to see if I was foolish enough to stay. I tried to back away, forcing my eyes down to the tiled floor. But the tiles had shifted. They were darker than before, each one marred with faint, dripping stains. At first I thought it was just water leaking through the roof, but when one drop landed on the back of my hand, it burned. I hissed in pain, and when I looked up again, one of the figures had moved closer in the reflection, its jaw wider now, as if mocking my pain. My instinct screamed at me, if you acknowledge them, they'll come closer. So I ran. The hallways twisted in unnatural directions, repeating themselves like a maze. I could feel the air shift as I sprinted past the exhibits, the static heat of something moving behind me without sound. Every corner I turned only led me back into the same hallway with the same display cases. Their reflections followed, closer each time, some of their heads tilted, others crawling along the ceiling in ways that should have been impossible. The worst part? Their silence. Even when they moved, even when they pressed their palms flat against the glass so hard the cases cracked, they made no noise beyond that steady scraping. It was as if they wanted me to know how close they were without giving me the mercy of sound to predict them. Finally, I stumbled into the grand foyer, gasping for breath. For a moment, I thought I'd escaped, until I noticed the great glass doors. The outside world lay beyond them, faint lights of the town flickering in the distance. But in the glass, there they were again. Not distant this time. Right behind me. I felt a cold breath brush my ear. And then, words. A whisper so soft it curdled my blood. "You're late." I bolted forward, slamming my shoulder into the doors. They didn't budge. The reflection stared back, their arms reaching out, not from the glass, but from the air itself, stretching long and thin like shadows peeling free of their walls. The foyer lights flickered for the first time, plunging the hall into darkness, and when they returned, the figures were gone from the reflection. But the whisper hadn't stopped. It was all around me now. Closer. Louder. A chorus of voices, each one saying the same words over and over. "Stay. Stay. Stay." I don't remember how I escaped. Maybe I blacked out, maybe they threw me back into the world out of boredom. When I woke, I was outside on the cold pavement, the doors to the hall shut tight behind me. The faint lights of the town had returned to normal. No whispers. No reflections. Just silence. But ever since that night, I've stopped trusting glass. My reflection doesn't always follow me. Sometimes it lingers, moving a little slower, tilting its head in ways I don't. And when the room grows too quiet, I swear I hear nails scraping, just beneath the surface. And I know, deep down, they didn't let me go. They're just waiting for the silence to fall again. The silence did return, thick, suffocating, and absolute. It was as though someone had pressed their hand over the mouth of the world. Even the faint buzz of the old stage lights dimmed into nothing, leaving the air hollow, cavernous. My breath, shallow and panicked, suddenly sounded intrusive. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want them to hear it. But the silence had a way of amplifying everything, pulling each heartbeat into the open like a spotlight. I knew, somewhere out there beyond the stage curtain, something was listening. Something was counting. Then the velvet curtain trembled, just once, as though something had brushed against its back. My throat tightened. I remembered the rules. Don't look at the stage. But the weight of curiosity, like 1,000 invisible claws, pulled my eyes forward. Against every nerve in my body, I let my gaze slide to the stage. The curtain didn't rise this time. Instead, a slit formed at the center, as if invisible fingers were pulling the fabric apart. The opening was small, just enough for me to see something peering through. At first, I thought it was a mask, pale, cracked porcelain with hollow eyes. But then the skin twitched, and I realized it was no mask at all. Its eyes weren't holes but pits, deep, wet cavities that drank in the dim glow of the theater. Its smile stretched too far, impossibly wide, splitting its face into something sharp and mocking. And though no sound should exist in the silence, I heard it. The sound wasn't in my ears, it was behind my ribs, a voice vibrating inside my bones. "We're still here." I tore my gaze away, squeezing my eyes shut. The air was cold now, colder than the grave. My body screamed to run, but my legs felt submerged, pinned down by something unseen. When I dared to look again, the curtain was whole, unmoving. The stage was empty. Yet I wasn't fooled. I knew they hadn't gone. And then, faint at first, I heard it. Applause. A single pair of hands, clapping slowly, deliberately. The sound echoed unnaturally, filling the theater as if 1,000 unseen spectators had joined in. The seats around me creaked, one by one, though I couldn't see anyone sitting in them. But I could feel them. The presence of bodies filling every row, leaning forward, faceless and eager. Their attention pressed against me like a tide. I wasn't in an empty theater anymore. I was their entertainment. The applause stopped. The silence fell again, heavier than before. My ears strained, waiting. Something was building. Something was about to start. And then, with a low groan, the curtain began to rise. The stage was no longer a stage. It was a void, blacker than night, deeper than any tunnel. Shapes moved in that darkness, long limbs bent the wrong way, torsos twisted and broken, faces stretched like wax left too close to flame. They emerged slowly, dragging themselves across an invisible surface, their movements deliberate, synchronized. They weren't actors. They weren't human. But they performed with perfect timing, every tilt of their heads choreographed, every twitch part of some hideous play. One by one, they turned their heads toward me, though none of them had eyes that should see. Their mouths hung open as if to speak, but no sound came. Instead, the silence deepened, crushing, smothering, unbearable. My lungs fought for air, my chest convulsed, but I couldn't breathe. The silence was inside me. It wanted to hollow me out, to make me one of them. And then, the lead figure stepped forward. Taller than the rest, its neck craned unnaturally as it loomed over the edge of the stage. It extended its hand, impossibly long fingers stretching toward me. Not to touch, not yet. Just to remind me that the space between us was shrinking. And as I sat there, paralyzed, I realized the awful truth. They weren't waiting for the silence. They weren't waiting for the audience to watch. They were waiting for me. My chair groaned beneath me as if 100 invisible hands pushed me forward. The stage yawned open, the void within spreading, ready to swallow me whole. I clamped my eyes shut, praying the rules would still save me if I obeyed now, if I stopped looking. But the silence had already claimed me. I could feel it threading into my veins, pulling me to the stage, pulling me into their performance. The last thing I heard before the darkness folded over me was the voice again, low and triumphant, filling every inch of my skull. The show always needs new actors.